Good evening, everyone. Today we will be doing approaches to personality assessment. That is block 4, unit 2 in personality. So, this is a very important chapter. To know, understand, and describe people is a task in which everybody is involved in day to day life, right? When we meet new people, we often try to understand them and even predict what they may do before we interact with them. In our personal lives, we rely on our past experiences, observations, conversations, and information obtained from other persons. This approach to understanding others may be influenced by a number of factors that may color our judgment and reduce objectivity. Hence, we need to organize our efforts more formally to analyze personalities. A formal effort aimed at understanding personality of an individual is termed as personality assessment. That's what we will be learning in today's class. How do you assess the personality in a formal setting? Assessment refers to the procedures used to evaluate or differentiate people on the basis of certain characteristics. The goal of assessment is to understand and predict behavior with minimum error and maximum accuracy. So, while you're assessing, the error should be minimal. In assessment, we try to study what a person generally does or how he or she behaves in a given situation. Besides promoting our understanding, assessment is also useful for diagnosis, training, placement, counseling, and other purposes. Psychologists have tried to assess personalities in various ways. The most commonly used techniques are psychometric test, which we have learned in the previous class, self-report measures, which we will be learning in today's class, projective techniques we will be learning, and behavioral analysis also. And these techniques are rooted in a different theoretical orientations. Hence, they throw light on different aspects of each personality. So first, let us move on to self-report personality test. So what is self-report here? Alport suggested that the best method to assess a person is by asking him or her about himself or herself. Of course, you are the better person to tell about yourself. This led to the use of self-report measures. These are fairly structured measures, not unstructured, often based on theory that requires subjects to give verbal responses using some kind of rating scale. The method requires the subject to objectively report her or his own feelings with respect to various items, how he or she feels about various things or various people. The responses are accepted at their face value. They are scored in a quantitative terms and interpreted on the basis of norms developed for the tests. And it is an inventory, it is a type of inventory of psychological test often used in personality assessment, in which a person fills out a survey or questionnaire with or without the help of an investigator, because it is a self report. A typical self-report inventory presents a number of questions or statements that may or may not describe certain qualities or characteristics of the test subject. Self-report measures rely on information provided directly by the participants. So if you are participating, if you are taking the test, so you're the only one who will be writing or talking about yourself. Self-report inventories often ask direct and indirect questions about personal interest, values, symptoms, if it is related to something clinical, behaviors and traits or personality types. And self-report inventories are classified into 5 types. Let us learn the classification of self-inventory. Vasudha, could you just scroll down?
Let me know to where.
Yeah, 1 second. Go on top. Yeah, just come down, come down. Yeah, just there. There. Yes. So self-report inventories are classified into five types. Five types we'll be learning one by one. First, inventories that attempt to measure social and certain other specific traits. This includes self-confidence, dominance, extraversion, etc. For example, Eysenck's personality questionnaire. The next is inventories that attempt to evaluate the adjustment of the person to different aspects of the environment. Adjustments that are studied here include adjustment to yourself, your health, home, and school. For example, Bell adjustment inventory, which we have already learned in the previous class during practicals. The third is inventories that attempt to evaluate pathological traits. This include hysteria, paranoia, hypomania, depression, schizophrenia, etc. And for example, it is MMPI test. It is a very large number of pathological traits. Then the next is 16PF. The next, inventories that attempt to screen individuals into 2 or 3 groups. For example, the Cornell Medical Index test, wherein you have given a questionnaire related to your health. And that also helps a physician or a doctor in pre-assessment of the patient. So before even meeting the patient, he gets an idea of the issue or the symptoms, a tentative diagnosis already done with the help of Cornell Medical Index test. The next is inventories that attempt to measure your attitudes, interests, and values of people. For example, Bogard's social distance scale, not COVID scale, it is Bogard's social distance scale, which is related to your attitude, which measures your attitude. The next that measures your interest is strong vocational interest blank test. The next that values your values is Alport Vernon study of values scale. Next, let's move on to single trait test. What is single trait test here? They are developed and used by researchers to measure some specific aspects of your personality. And then they examine whether people who score at the upper and lower end on the trait measure perform differently on the behavioral measure or differ on self-report measures. And examples of single trait test includes the locus of control scale, that is LCS, which was by Rotter in 1966. Now, what is this locus of control scale? Here, a 29 items questionnaire is provided to the subject, and it measures a person's internal versus external control of reinforcement. The second is the sensation seeking scale, that is by Zuckerman 1978. Now, what is sensation seeking scale? Here, a 40 force choice questions are provided to the subject, and it assesses individuals' differences in optimal level of stimulation. The third is the self-monitoring scale. This itself explains self-monitoring, monitoring yourself. It measures whether or not an individual has the will and ability to change how they are perceived by utilizing impression management in various social interaction. For example, behavior related to your health, you can see, right, for yourself, mood, exercise, etc. Next, moving on to multidimensional test. Now, what is multidimensional test? These provides more comprehensive overview of the person being assessed and are used extensively in clinical, counseling, and personal settings. For example, 16 personality factor questionnaire, that is 16PF by Raymond Cattell. Next, let's move on to the strengths and weaknesses, that is pros and cons of self-report test. Now, the strengths of this is objectivity of scoring, minimizes personal or theoretical bias. The next is less formal training required. Here, you do not need too much formal training. And it can be easily administered by someone with relatively little or very few, little knowledge of the training. And this test have greater reliability than other assessment techniques. And also it has got higher degree of validity. And these tests can also be standardized. And good solution when need to administer a large number of samples in a relatively short space of time. So this is one of the most reliable standardized test, and which is very convenient if you have to conduct on a larger sample. So this is accurate for that situation. And it also allows respondents to describe their own experiences rather than the researcher interpreting experiences by observing participants. And here, multi-dimensional inventories allow for measurement of several different personality traits at once. So it provides multi-dimensional analysis as well. Let's look at the weaknesses that self-report measures have got. Subjects here may provide socially acceptable answers rather than being truthful. So if the subject feels, okay, this is what, if I say this, then the people will think, okay, so if the person is expecting you to answer this, so you would answer, say, X instead of Y, if the Y is your personality trait. The next is introspective ability. What is introspective ability? The subjects may not be able to assess themselves accurately. Why? Because it is not easy to understand yourself. Intrapersonal skills, to understanding yourself. That's why in an interview, when you're asked, tell me something about yourself, we most of the times by heart the answer and go, right? It's like we don't know ourselves who we are. Next, rating scales. Rating scales, yes or no, can be too restrictive because sometimes it is beyond yes or no. Response bias. Questions are subject to all of the biases of what the previous responses were, whether they relate to a recent or significant experience and other factors. Sampling bias. What is sampling bias? Are they representative of the population you wish to study? Sometimes some people are participating in the test who are not even eligible for the test. Questions can often be leading. That is, they may be forcing the respondent to give a particular reply. Then some psychological personality tests are too long and can therefore compel the respondents to give wrong answers in a hurry, or they may simply lose interest and not answer questions accurately. Absolutely, that happens to most of us. Suppose you're given just 20 questions, objective types. It is so easy for you to, you will be excited to answer and, finish quickly and leave. Suppose you're given 200 questions, what would you do? The first 50, you would take it up. From 51 onwards, you will be tedious. You will be like, oh my God, I don't want to attempt. So by the 101 first question, what happens? You will lose the interest, and some people might even leave without answering it. So these were the strengths and weaknesses of self-report measures. The next topic is faking in personality inventories. What is faking here? In personality inventories, personality tools or techniques. Faking is a common problem in testing with self-report personality test, and it also involves providing false reports about the match between the content of an item and the content of your memory. When candidates fake, this result in the elevation of scales that are desirable for a role and a reduction in scores on a undesirable trait scales. There are different ways of faking in self-report inventories. Basically, there are two ways. First is fake bad. That is intentionally answering items that they believe will create the impression of being more psychologically disturbed. I think that happens in the school also. If you have seen, there are some people who are not sick, but they act as if they are sick, they are victims. So that happens. Then look good, social desirability. respond to items in ways that make people look good and present themselves in favorable light, even though it is not true. So these are the two ways, that is faking and personality inventory. So there were two ways, that is faking bad and look good. Moving on to next topic, that is measures to avoid faking. How to avoid, what are the measures to be taken to avoid faking? You can also relate this to your, school or college exams as well. So what did your teacher do so that you don't copy or you copy less? So there were certain measures taken by the, your teacher, your invigilator, or the principal, by also fixing the cameras, and there would be one or two invigilators in the class who would, be always vigilant if who's copying, who's not. So let us see the measures to avoid faking here. So the first is safeguard are to be built into tests to detect deliberate deception. The MMPI, for instance, includes validity scales designed to indicate whether respondents are lying, defensive, or evasive when answering the test items. Second, it includes filler items which can make the purpose of a test less obvious to a person. Carefully evaluate the social desirability of each item before it is included in a test. Phrase the item so that true or false or yes or no responses are equally likely to be indicative of the trait being measured here. Therefore, any bias coming from the tendency to respond true or yes is balanced when the test is scored. Now, next is methods to overcome weaknesses in self-report test. What are the methods to overcome these weaknesses, whatever exist? First is establishment of rapport. How do you do that? Suppose a teacher enters the classroom, right? So sometimes, that happened to me actually in during schools and colleges. Um, so whenever you're taking up an exam, it's like I know the answer, but when the teacher is constantly looking at me or staring me, I would forget. I would feel so uneasy. I mean, especially if the teacher is an unknown person, or maybe she's not your teacher, she's teaching to the other classes. So that happens. So the teacher, uh, here there's no teacher, but then establishment of rapport is very important. Establishing a warm and cooperative relationship with the subject will also help him in expressing the truth in an unhesitant way and thereby reduce the major proportion of distortion. The second is use of forced choice technique. Now, what is forced choice technique here? This technique has been used in controlling faking good or socially desirable response test, which we learned in the previous, right? Look good. In forced choice items, the subject is forced to choose between two or more than two equally desirable or undesirable terms or phrases or statements. The subject who wants to give socially desirable responses is outwitted by the forced choice between equally desirable statements in this case. The next thing, concealing the main purpose of the test. Just give me a second. Thank you. So the third method is concealing the main purpose of the test. When the subjects do not know the real purpose of the test, it becomes difficult for them to fake. Although in such a situation, they may be more suspicious and defensive in their responses. The next is use of verification and correction keys. How do you do that? Use of various kinds of correction and verification keys gives an indication whether or not the subject is projecting the true picture of the self. For instance, MMPI uses 4 validity scores, which aims at checking carelessness, evasiveness, misunderstanding, and operation of other response sets. Next, moving on to some important personality inventories. There are many different self-report inventories. The following are just a few well-known examples. I think most of you have heard by now about the 16 personality factor questionnaires, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So that is a well-known trending, I mean, for us at least right now. So we were also sent, I mean, OB group was also sent 16 PF, to know us. Yes. Yeah. So we learned self-report measures. The next is 16 personality factor questionnaire. So what is this? So this test was developed by Raymond Cattell. On the basis of his studies, he identified a large set of personality descriptions which were subjected to factor analysis to identify the basic personality structure. The test provides with declarative statements and the subject responds to a specific situation by choosing from a set of given alternatives. The test can be used with high school level student as well as with all adults, including you and me. It has been found extremely useful in career guidance, vocational exploration, and occupational testing. And this test was composed of four choice questions in which the respondent must choose one of three different alternatives. Now, the alternative could be like strongly disagree, disagree, or I agree as well as disagree, or agree and strongly agree. Like there could be four choices, there could be five choices, again depends. And the format of the 16 PF, that is fifth edition, is it contains 185 MCQs, multiple choice items. Then it is written at the fifth grade reading level, so somebody who is in grade 5 can also read. This is quite simple. Then it is untimed. It takes between 35 to 15 minutes, 50 minutes to complete with paper and pencil. It takes about 30 minutes to complete the computerized version. So both paper and pen is available as well as computerized version. And this 16 PF ask about specific everyday situation questions. So all your daily life questions related to you in order to assess daily behavior, your interest and opinions about people around you. Subjects are asked to rate each statement on a 5-point scale, like I told you, right? Strongly disagree, strongly agree, or accurate, inaccurate, or very accurate. So this was 16 PF. The next is neurotic extraversion openness personality inventory. So the new PI-R is a concise measure of the 5 major domains of personality, as well as the 6 traits or facets that define each domain. Taken together, the 5 domain scales and 30 facet scales of the new PI-R facilitate a comprehensive and detailed assessment of normal adult personality. It has helpful applications in counseling, clinical psychology, psychiatry, behavioral medicine, and health psychology, vocational counseling, and industrial organizational psychology, and educational and personality research. The format of NeoPIR inventory goes as understand personality traits. So this is used to understand personality traits. It is used for selection, development, and career guidance. So if somebody needs career guidance or while selecting what career to choose, so this is helpful. It is used with adults age 16 and above. So anyone age 16 and above could make use of this. It is administered online and on paper on individual as well as group. The timing, it is untimed. It is typical completion timing is 25 to 30 minutes and number of items is 240. Reports, administrators report and range of narrative reports. Reliability, how reliable? 30 Facet scales ranges from 0.56 to zero point 0.1 and 5 factor scales ranges from 0.86 to 0.92. The next test is Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, that is MBTI. I am sure most of you have read about it. It is by Carl Jung. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator is based on Carl Jung's theory of personality. The MBTI is one of the most popular personality inventories used with non-clinical populations. It has been criticized for certain reasons. Again, it is widely used. MBTI measures individuals across 4 bipolar dimensions, which are sensing and intuition. You know what sensing and intuition mean, right? Thinking or feeling, introversion, extraversion, which we learned in previous class, that is socially outgoing person or socially withdrawn person, perceiving and judging, perceiving the way you understand things and judging. And these 4 dimensions can differ for each individual. Again, it is not fixed, or it could be in combination as well, resulting in 16, that is 4 into 4 possible personality types. And general format of MBTI is, it has 93 items, 8th grade level reading. So somebody who is in class 8th is easily able to read this. Age 14 and above, again, when you reach class 8, you're basically 14. Approximate time for administration is 15 to 25 minutes. So this was MBTI, that is Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. The next test is MMPI, that is Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. So this is also something which is widely used. This inventory is widely used as a test in personality assessment. Hathaway and McKinley developed this test as a helping tool for psychiatric diagnosis. It is used for psychiatric diagnosis. But the test has been found very effective in identifying varieties of psychopathology. Its revised version is available as MMPI 2, not 1 now. It consists of 567 statements. The subject has to judge each statement as true or false for her or him. The test is divided into 10 further subscales, which seek to diagnose hypochondriasis, that is your mental disorder, depression, hysteria, that is fear and panic, psychopathic deviate, masculinity, femininity, paranoia, psychoasthenia, that is your phobias or obsessions or compulsive disorders, schizophrenia, your mania, and social introversion. In India, Malik and Joshi have developed the Jodhpur Multiphasic Personality Inventory, that is by name JMPI, along the lines of MMPI. So MMPI is available, and then in Indian version, it is JMPI. So this was MMPI, that is Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. And the format of this is 18 years of age and older can use it, can take the test. 6th grade level reading, a person who is in class 6 is able to read this. It is very simple. Paper, pencil, and computer. It can be given to individual or group as well. Administration time is approximately 60 to 90 minutes, so 1 hour to 1.5 hours. It must be interpreted by qualified professionals only. Available in different languages, so that is one of the major advantage here. The next is projective technique. Now, what is projective technique? The techniques of personality assessment described so far are known as direct techniques. So whatever we have learned so far, those were called direct techniques because they tend to rely on information directly obtained, right? We learned all self-reports and its types from the person who clearly knows that his or her personality is being assessed. In these situations, people generally become self-conscious and hesitate to share their private feelings, thoughts, and motivations. When they do so, they often do it in a socially desirable manner. The psychoanalytic theory tells us that a large part of human behavior is governed by unconscious motives. Direct methods of personality assessment cannot uncover the unconscious part of your personality. Hence, they fail to provide us with a real picture of an individual's personality. These problems can be overcome by using indirect methods of assessment. That is, projective technique fall into this category. Which category? Indirect method assessment. So projective technique is an indirect way of assessing people's personality. Projective technique would develop to assess unconscious motives and feelings, which otherwise you wouldn't share it. These techniques are based on the assumption that a less structured or unstructured stimulus or situation will allow the individual to project his or her feelings, desires, and needs onto that situation. These projections are interpreted by experts. A variety of projective techniques have been developed, and they use various kinds of stimulus materials and situations for assessing the personality. Some of them require reporting associations with stimuli, for example, words, Inkblot test, and some involve story writing around pictures. Some require sentence completion test as well. Some require expression through drawings, such as cartoons, and some require choice of stimuli from a large set of stimuli provided to them. While the nature of stimuli and responses in these techniques vary enormously, all of them do share the following common features. Let's see what are the features, what all the stimuli share in common. The stimuli are relatively or fully unstructured and poorly defined. We are going to see this when we read further. The person being assessed is usually not told about the purpose of assessment and the method of scoring and interpretation. So this information is not revealed in indirect assessment. The person is informed that there are no correct or incorrect responses. Each response is considered to reveal a significant aspect of personality. Scoring and interpretation are lengthy and sometimes subjective. And projective techniques are different from the psychometric test in many ways. They cannot be scored in any objective manner. They generally require qualitative analysis for which a rigorous training is needed. In the following, uh, we are going to learn the types of techniques used here. So I would like to just know if somebody knows the projective techniques. Could you just list out the techniques here? Let me see if somebody is awake. So all the 6 participants are sleeping. Good.
No, association techniques, constructive techniques, completion techniques, expressive techniques, and choice techniques.
Oh, wow. Even I can read that. Okay. Thank you, Vasudha. Yeah. So
At least I'm not sleeping.
yes. Yeah. So it's Rorschach's Inkblot test. So everything falls under this association, construction, completion, expressive, and choice techniques. The thematic appreciation test, that is your TAT. Your Rosenwick's picture frustration technique, that is your PF study. Then draw a person test, sentence completion test, that is completion test. It is nothing but sentence completion test. So let's just look at each one by one. Association technique. What is association technique here? These are the techniques in which the respondent is presented with a stimulus and asked to respond with the first word, what comes to his or her mind. Example, the Rorschach's test. So what happens in Rorschach's Inkblot test here? The cards are administered individually in 2 phases in front of the subject on who you are administering the test. In the first phase called performance proper, the subject are shown the cards and are asked to tell what they see in each of them. In the second phase called inquiry, a detailed report of the response is prepared by asking the subject to tell where and how and on what basis was a particular response made. And fine judgment is necessary to place the subject responses in a meaningful context. The use and interpretation of this test requires extensive training by the administrator.
Just before you can go on, an example for the association technique is if anybody has seen this Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, your
Yes,
example comes in there itself. The way
yes,
he puts in words, and the first thing that comes to your mind, you have to answer. Wherever the person gets stuck is basically where the problem arises, according to the movie. But I don't think it is that way. But it is a basic example of association techniques that you could use.
right, Vasudha, right. So when you're allowed to choose a word, so in the first thing you're given a choice and then you choose a word. The second is you inquire about that, like why did you choose that? What made you choose that? So that's where the introspection starts now. Yes, that was associative technique. The next is completion technique. That is nothing but sentence completion test. Here, this test makes use of a number of incomplete sentences. The starting part of the sentence is first presented, and the subject has to provide an ending to the sentence. I think we had in exams as well, like especially English or any language. It is held that the type of endings used by the subjects reflect their attitudes, motivation, and conflicts. The test provides subjects with several opportunities to reveal their underlying unconscious motivations. A few sample I would like to list it out as, for example, my father dash. The greatest fear is dash. I am proud of dash. My name is dash. So when you start with my name first, what happens? Of course, whatever your name is, you will write. So it just kind of gives you a flow, and then one by one, you're asked. So you're just given the beginning of the sentence, and you have to complete whatever you feel regarding that person or that thing. So this is sentence completion test, and responses given by the examinee are interpreted and analyzed to find some hidden aspect of the personality of that particular person or the subject. The second is constructive techniques. Um, Here, the respondents are required to construct a response in the form of a drawing, story, dialogue, or description. For example, thematic appreciation test. Again, it is developed by Morgan and Murray. It is a little more structured than the Inglot test, which we learned. The test consists of 30 black and white picture cards and one blank card. Each picture card depicts one or more people in a variety of situations. Each picture is printed on a card. Some cards are used with adult males or females. Others are used with boys or girls. Still others are used in some combinations. 20 cards are appropriate for a subject basically, although a lesser number of cards can also be used successfully. And now these cards are presented one at a time. And the subject is asked to tell a story describing the situation presented in the picture. So whatever picture he or she gets, now they are asked to describe a story or a picture. What led to what led up to the situation, what is happening at the moment, what will happen in the future, and what the characters are feeling and thinking about each other. A standard procedure is available for scoring TAT responses. The test has been modified for children and for the aged. Again, it depends as per the convenience and age group or gender. Umar Chaudhry's Indian adaptation of TAT is also available now. So this was your constructive techniques. The next is expressive techniques. So what is expressive techniques? They are techniques in which the respondents are presented a verbal or visual situation and asked to relate the feelings and attitudes of other people to the situation, such as role playing, psychodrama, dance, third person technique, etc. Which also, I think we also make use of all these things, as a child. I mean, when you're playing along with your friends in the group. So there's role play, damsharads, and a lot of things, right? We act. The next is choice technique. What happens in choice technique? The examiner is presented with some set of pictures or items with the instruction to choose the most relevant and appropriate pictures here. Sometimes he may be asked to order or rank those pictures in terms of his preferences, and thus the name ordering technique. The choice of the items becomes a basis for inference regarding one's personality. Example, the Zondi test, which is based on 8 drive needs. So we learned the classification of projective techniques, that is associative technique, completion technique, constructive technique, expressive technique, and choice technique. Any doubts so far? Okay, let's move on to strengths and weaknesses of projective technique. So we learned that projective technique is an indirect assessment of personality, right? And also the classification of projective technique. Now let's just see what are the strengths and weaknesses of projective technique. Projective techniques are useful because they allow psychologists to assess unconscious aspect of personality which is not revealed otherwise. Personality tests can provide quite rich information and reveal conflicts that need to be worked on during therapies that would not otherwise have come to light, right? Through the use of these techniques, whatever we have learned, so it reveals a lot of hidden or unconscious things, in a person. So it provides a lot of data and information. Then strong and useful results, if done in a right and a professional way, it reveals. What are the weaknesses here? There is no consensus on the standardization of instructions for application, correction, and interpretation here. Examiner or test situation may influence individuals' response. Like I told you, rapport building is very important. Scoring is highly subjective again. Intensive and extensive training is necessary to handle these tests. Without formal training, anyone cannot administer the test. Test failed to produce consistent results. That is, reliability problem exists in this case. And they are poor predictors of future behavior. Again, there is a validity problem as well. And these tests are expensive because the administrator also requires formal training. Next, moving on to behavioral assessment. Somebody would like to say what behavioral assessment is? Okay. A person's behavior in a variety of situations can provide us with meaningful information, isn't it? About his or her personality. Observation of behavior serves as the basis of behavioral analysis. An observer's report may contain data obtained from your interview, observation, rating, nomination, and situational test. So these are the types of behavioral assessments. What? Interviews, observation, ratings, nomination, and situational test, which we will be learning one by one. First is observation technique. What is observation technique here? Behavioral observation is another method which is very commonly used for the assessment of personality, right? You assess the person based on their behaviors, right? The way they behave in a social setting or when they're alone. Although all of us watch people and form impressions about their personality, use of observation for personality assessment is a sophisticated procedure that cannot be carried out by untrained people. Again, the person who is assessing needs to be trained. It requires careful training of the observer and a fairly detailed guideline about analysis of behaviors in order to assess the personality of a given person. For example, a clinical psychologist may like to observe her or his client's interaction with family members and home visitors. With carefully designed observation, the clinical psychologist may gain considerable insight into a client's personality. In spite of their frequent and widespread use, observation and interview methods are characterized by the following limitation. Again, it has got some limitations as well. It's not just has got pros. Professional training is required here, without which it cannot be assessed. then it is quite demanding and time consuming to, of course, to observe a person. You just can't observe for 2 minutes and leave. No, he might just behave right in front of you for a very short time. Then maturity of the psychologist is again a precondition for obtaining valid data through these kind of techniques. And mere presence of the observer may contaminate the results again. As a stranger, the observer may influence the behavior of the person being observed and does not obtain good data. Again, the person who is being observed might become conscious. So that was observation technique. The next is situational test. What is situational test? A variety of situational tests have been devised for the assessment of personality. The most commonly used test of this kind is a situational stress test here. It provides us with information about how a person behaves under stressful situation. That test requires a person to perform a given task with other persons who are instructed to be non-cooperative and interfering. That test involves a kind of role playing. The person is instructed to play a role for which he or she is observed. The verbal report is also obtained on what he or she was asked to do. The situation may be a realistic one, or it may be created through a video play as well. And these situational tests are more suited for the measurement of traits like your leadership, dominance, responsibility, extroversion, introversion, and the like. So this was your situational test. The next is weaknesses in the behavioral assessment. So what are the behavioral assessment that we learned? Anyone? The techniques, the observation techniques through behavior. There were observation techniques, situational techniques, right? Okay, so now we will see the weaknesses in these kind of behavioral assessment test. There is no control on unpredictable events. Then issue of observer bias and expectation always exist. Issue of reliability and validity is at question. Subjectivity and bias may operate in the observation. Extremely time consuming. Of course, if you have to observe somebody, it takes a lot of time. It takes days together to observe one person and arrive at a decision or a conclusion. And it is costly and laborious techniques has to be used here. Another limitation is concerned with what to observe. Sometimes the observer is not known that what he or she needs to observe. Another issue, whether the observer should be kept visible or invisible, because that could again make the the person who has been observed very conscious and he might act inappropriately. And issue of reliability and validity is at question again. Then observers may unwittingly interfere with the actual events they wish to observe or record. And again, training is necessary for the observations. Without formal training, one cannot observe. So these were the weaknesses in the behavioral assessment tests. That is it for today. Ritika, you can stop recording.